the language because we stay in English because those lovely ladies. So one is tuning in from San Francisco, California, and one is tuning in from the Netherlands. Unless you surprise me, Helen, and you tell me you're somewhere else. But
No,
from Lucy,
no,
I know for sure she's in San
no.
Francisco.
I'm right where you expect me to be, Diana.
Perfect. It's so good to have you here. Lucy, how's the jet lag doing?
The jet lag is great, but it's 7:30 in the morning, so I'm hoping I look
Ooh.
presentable.
You always do.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
It is so wonderful to have you here because obviously there is a lot of things going on in our profession, and the momentum was just perfect to see the new version of the Skills Matrix coming out. And it's so good to see the noise, the positive noise out there. And you said it so nicely during the panel discussion last week. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend, but I listened to it afterwards. And we have Evelyn on as well, who was part of the panel. So regards to you specifically as well for being out there. And you said it so nicely, Lucy. You said this is not the launch of the new version of the framework, it is a reality check. And I love that. I wrote it down
Mm,
right away and underlined it because it is so true. And we need this reality check, right? So glad to have you
thank
both
you.
here. I'm gonna, throw a few questions over, and we're gonna start with Helen. So the research behind the Global Skills Matrix 2026 involved over 3,000 professionals across nearly 70 countries. So what does that scale of participation tell you about the state of the profession right now?
Yeah, thanks, Diana. Hello, everybody. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having us. Yeah, we were absolutely overwhelmed by the results, first of all, and it told us that people are hungry to be seen in this profession. We had 3,221 administrative professionals from 69 countries put their hands up and say, yes, I want to be a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't happen in a profession that feels satisfied with how it's being treated. There is a real urgency out there. And one of the most striking things about the data is how consistent that urgency is. So whether we're talking to someone in Lagos or London or Lima, wherever, the same patterns come through. So 59% say that their responsibilities have grown significantly since 2021. If you're feeling that, people on the call, then put it in the chat if you know that
Mm-hmm.
that's happening. 51% have no clear career pathway in their organization, more than half, which is shocking. And these are not small numbers, right? This is the majority of a workforce that knows it's doing so much more than it's being given credit for.
Yes, it is. Were you happy with the numbers that came in?
Absolutely, yes. Well, we were hoping to get more than we did for the original survey, and
Right.
that took us to the 2021 uh, the first launch of the Matrix. But so yes, we were absolutely delighted with the results. Absolutely delighted.
Absolutely. And we have been promoting this globally. So, yeah, every voice counts, right? So, Lucy, speaking of the World Economic Forum, we both know that this is not always our favorite source because they give us a hard time for years. They put us on these lists, right? They have been telling us the decline of the role for years, but now we have the data from the Global Skills Matrix that tells us a very different story. So, where is the disconnection here?
You know what? There's actually three organizations that are driving me mad, and they're one of them. So the first one is the first one is the Wall Street Journal, which keeps putting out articles that saying that this is a profession in serious decline. It says that 68% of the profession has disappeared, but then it lists what the profession does as being what is said in the Bureau of Labour Statistics. Now, the Bureau of Labour Statistics, which is the biggest classification organization in the world and which comes out of America, and by the way, every country has their own. And usually these classification bureaus change their definitions every 3, 4 years, and they give you a 2 week window where they email you to tell you that you're able to help them to make the changes if you happen to be on their list. So Bureau of Labour Statistics changed theirs last year, and I was hoping for great things, but sadly it's still saying that you are secretaries. It's saying that amongst your jobs is filing and faxing, and it is also saying that it takes you maybe a couple of weeks to learn your role. So clearly they haven't got it, and they only actually recognise one level of assistant, and that is the secretarial role of old, what we would have commonly called secretaries. So then World Economic Forum, I wasn't surprised when they put out their report last year, their Future of Jobs report that they put out every year, to see that assistants are number 2 on their list of fastest declining jobs. But their list of what the skills are is entirely different. In fact, the list of what the skills for the future are align absolutely perfectly with our global skills matrix. So I contacted them and said, can we have a meeting? And of course, we did have a meeting with the person who put together the report. And when I said to them, this doesn't match. I don't understand why you're saying it's, number 2 on the fastest declining list, but actually the skills are the same. And where did you get the data? And it turned out that they didn't actually do it on data. The way that they formatted it was that they asked their top 300 clients what they thought. So those top 300 clients are probably reading the Wall Street Journal and looking at the Bureau of Labour Statistics. So what I would say to you about that is that clearly the World Economic Forum is measuring tasks. And they're right that some of those tasks are being automated. But when they're saying it's fastest declining, and when the Bureau of Labour Statistics is saying that it's declined by 68%, what they're talking about is assistants that send faxes and do filing. And of course, yes, you are declining, because the thing is, the role isn't a list of tasks. 60% of the people that we surveyed are doing project management routinely and managing programs. 38% are supporting board and governance preparation. 26% are advising on strategic and operational risk. So these are not activities of a profession that's in decline. In fact, it's a profession that's operating at a centre of how your organisations function. And I think the disconnect comes from the classification problem. When you define administrative professionals by their task list rather than by their judgment and by their impact and by their contribution, of course it looks like a role that's shrinking. They're just measuring the wrong things. And the people who are sitting here on this conference know that that's absolutely not the case. They know it better than anybody.
True. But sadly to say, the current press articles out there are not helping us as well. I mean, KPMG with the offshore, now we have Deloitte, reducing support. And it's not helping, right?
Deloitte is unbelievable. Deloitte has actually said that there are 2 tiers of employees. So the employees that are client facing now get all the benefits, and the people who are in support, including the administrators, are on a lower level that don't get parental leave, don't get IVF, don't get all the things that allow them to be parents, really, and to be at home with their children and make that function. So for us, as a profession that's 98% female, that really makes me cross.
Yeah, it's really sad to see these developments.
It's dangerous, actually.
Classification was a good point. So Helen, over to you. You've argued that the profession has a classification problem, not a skills problem. Can you explain what you mean by that and why it matters?
Absolutely. If you're sitting in an administrative role, feeling frustrated that your contribution isn't being recognized, just listen. I would like you to hear this really clearly. It's not because you're not good enough. It's because the systems that are used to describe and grade and value the work were not built with your current role in mind. The skills are there. They've always been there. What's missing is a framework that names them accurately. So when you look at job families and grading structures in most organizations, administrative professionals are characterized in ways that cap progression and signal to the business that the function is an overhead. It's a cost rather than a capability. So the Global Skills Matrix 2026 is designed to change that. It gives you the language to say, okay, this is the level I'm working at. This is the judgment I'm exercising. And this is what it should look like in terms of my title, my development, and my pay.
Absolutely. And Lucy's going to share her screen in a moment to actually have a look at the matrix so you have a feeling how it looks like, because there have been some major new features in it. And of course the AI is part of it. I mean, there was no chance not to talk about AI, and we've seen this in the answers coming in from the surveys, obviously. So Lucy, administrative professionals are actually leading AI adoption in many organizations, and we just heard it over the course of the day today as well. Yet they are still among the most undervalued workers. So how do you explain that paradox?
I think it's invisibility. It's so interesting. I don't know whether you saw it, but there was a new report out last week from LinkedIn,
Yeah.
from Lean In. Lean
Okay,
In is
lean
the
in.
organization that is run by Sheryl Sandberg, the CEO of Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, what they were saying was that women are not adopting AI as fast as men, and they're lagging behind in terms of what they're achieving. And the whole message was really about how women needed to get with the program and get up to speed. And again, it's this data thing, isn't it? Because
Mm-hmm.
you are a fifth of the world's working population. A fifth of the world's working population works in admin. So that's 500 million women worldwide. And we know from LinkedIn's research that you are the fastest adopters of AI. So how is it then the case that we're saying that women need to catch up? The problem is, I think we're so used to operating in the background. It's the same dynamic that's always existed in this profession. We've always been the people who make things work quietly in the background. And so we don't push ourselves forward. And also, men are really good at pushing themselves forward.
They
And
are.
the research from Lenin said that men are far more likely to be praised, about 20% more likely to be praised than the women when it cut, they say, oh, well done, you did such an amazing job. Whereas the women just get on with it quietly. And so they're not visible. They're brilliant at it, but nobody notices. So 42% of the people that we surveyed have already implemented AI or automation tools in their workflow. Can I be really specific about that? They're
Yeah.
not playing with it in emails and things. They have actually implemented it in their automation or in their workflow. And they're using it to draft and refine documentation clearly, but also to conduct research and to manage scheduling and to improve efficiency right the way across everything that they touch. But because it looks seamless, the credit goes elsewhere. That's also something structural going on. So if your title says administrator and your job description was written in 2005, your organization is not going to look at you and think AI pioneer unless you
Yeah.
talk about it, even if that's exactly what you are. So the category doesn't allow for it. That's precisely why you have a framework that talks about what you actually do being something that matters so much.
Absolutely. And maybe we can ask the audience here to put a few numbers into the chat in terms of percentage. So, what would you say out of the 100% in your role? How much AI adoption is happening right now in your role? And as Lucy was saying, not just playing around, really, really deep knowledge in terms of I'm building this agent and I'm having this automation. So, why don't you write these numbers in the chat for us so we get a little feeling of how much you are already adopting to AI? Because it was on the agenda today. Talked about Copilot a lot with Daniel, remember? So let's see what the numbers actually say. All right. So Helen, back to you before Lucy's going to share her screen. With the data from 69 countries, did you find fundamental differences in how the profession is perceived and valued across the regions, or is the classification gap truly universal?
Absolutely. The classification gap is universal. That's a fact. It's just the flavor that varies. So you have the cultural context, specific titles, and the way that seniority is signaled. But the underlying experience is remarkably consistent.
Mhm.
Everywhere we looked, we found a profession doing more than it's credited for, more than it's paid for, more than it's titled for. Everywhere we looked, we found experienced professionals with no career pathway. Everywhere we looked, we found people whose job title does not actually reflect what they're really doing on a day-to-day basis.
Mhm.
What was also
Oop, am I losing
for
Helen
their
or is it my
strategic.
connection? Oh, okay. Sorry, I just lost you. Sorry. Maybe
Oh,
it was
okay,
my connection.
that's okay. I'll say it again. What
Thank
was
you.
consistent was the aspiration. So people everywhere want to be recognized for their strategic contribution. They want development opportunities that match their capability, and they want organizations to see them as infrastructure
Yeah,
rather than overhead, just like marketing and IT. That universality is one of the most powerful things in this research. So nobody can look at this and say it's a British problem or it's an American problem. It is everywhere.
absolutely. Lucy, why don't you share the screen with us? We're curious, and I'm sure there are a lot of people here in the room who did not have the time yet to have a look at the matrix. So I gave you the co-host, right? So you should be able to share the screen.
Wonderful. Just before I do that, I just want to add to
Sure.
what Helen just said, which is that, you know, there is precedence for this. If you think about the accounting profession, they started out being seen as clerks. And
Yeah,
it was down to people putting structure in place and putting certifications and qualifications in place that meant that now globally, finance is seen as a core part of infrastructure. They have their place on the board. Nobody ever questions it. That's where I want us to be.
right.
That's where I want us to
Very
be as
good point.
infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Good. So let's share now. Let's share this PowerPoint with you all so that you're able to see it. Can you see very well?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Perfect. So let me talk you through it then. And of course, each level builds on the previous level, and you incorporate and extend all the prior capabilities as you move up. And I want to make it very clear that your progression is defined by increasing judgment, accountability, and organizational impact. This isn't about how long you've been an assistant or what your title is or what your proximity is to leadership. We want you to be seen for what your skills and capabilities are. So at a level 1, you have an apprenticeship, you have a foundational level, and that is where you are learning how to work in a business and you're learning your core skills. So you're probably still being supervised. You might even still be at college and coming into work a couple of days a week to learn what it's like to work in an office. Level 2 is professional administrative. There are assistants that want to do purely administrative work in the old sense, and that is somebody who is totally reliable at doing administration, totally understands it, understands the processes, wants to get on with doing it, and they do have contextual awareness as to what's going on in the organisation. Level 3 is our centre of gravity for the profession now. It's where most people sit. Can I say something, which is that the average age of an assistant globally is 48 now. So we have an issue because we need to get the young people into the profession. But if we don't have levels 1 and 2 because they're likely to go to AI, then how do we get people into level 3? And that's partly why we've included these levels 1 and 2 in here so that there is a training ground. But the other thing that I would say is, of course, that if we don't do anything about getting young people into the profession, in 10 years' time, the average age is going to be 48 and 58. And then we're going to have a serious problem because they're all going to be retiring and businesses are going to have no infrastructure. So that's just as an aside. But let's go back to 3. So level 3 is now operational project coordination. Of course, you've built your administrative skills before you get there, but at this point, you're not doing admin, you're managing admin. You understand the workflows, you understand the processes, and you are managing projects, and you are working across function. That's something really important. I keep reading in the press that one of the big skills of the future of work is being able to work cross-function, and I think you've all done that for a very, very long time. So that's something huge for all of you. Then at a level 4 originally started out as a strategic business partner, but actually right at the last minute when we were looking at it, we went, oh, if we do that, it means that we're back to looking at proximity to who you're looking after. And we absolutely wanted to take that out and to make sure it was about your skills. And actually, there are some people who are not working on a 1-to-1 or a 1-to-2, but at a level 4, you very definitely understand the business, you understand strategy, and that means that you are working with strategic interpretation and alignment. But it is probably at board level or at C-suite level that you're doing that. So you're interpreting strategic priorities and aligning your work to make sure that the organisation and the people you're supporting are working properly and that effective execution is taking place. But this is where it gets very exciting for me, I mean, I think the whole thing is exciting, but where it gets really exciting for me is levels 5A and 5B. And that's because 5A is it subdivides. So you can choose, if you really want to get to the top, how you do that. And for the first time, we haven't got a glass ceiling. I think for most assistants up until now, quite frankly, you've had a cement ceiling. But here is where we smash through that glass ceiling and we put ourselves in a position where we can do anything. So a level 5A means that you're stepping into administrative leadership. So you're leading a function of administrators. And I'm not suggesting for a second that you stop reporting to your executives. It's just we're seeing more and more from organisations that they are putting a leader in place there who is looking after all the administrators, who is advocating for them, who's putting training in place for them, who's working out goals and KPIs, who puts structure in place, who makes sure that administration is represented at board meetings so that you're able to talk about bottlenecks and where processes will work and where they won't, who can roll out new initiatives. So, for example, if you were doing that role, you might have been in charge of rolling out AI to all your administrative professionals. You're probably going to do the hiring. You see, it's a leadership role, and more businesses are coming to us to talk about how they restructure their admins and how you put that stuff in place. On the other side, a 5B is executive operations leadership. So that is taking process and procedure and rolling it out across the organisation. It's managing the rhythm of the business. And if you work really hard in that level, you could become a chief of staff, but you could also, ultimately, if you work really hard, get to be a COO. That's the career progression there, a chief operating officer. So at a 5A, you could become an administrative leader, but actually work your way up in leadership to absolutely the top if you wanted to. And with a 5B, your path takes you, if you follow it rationally, through to a COO. So all of a sudden we have proper career progression. Now, I know Helen will have put it in the chat, but this is a free resource, just so you know. It's our gift to you, so you're very welcome to go download it. Just so you know, by the way, that level 2 is the level that the Bureau of Labour Statistics recognises. It doesn't recognise any of the rest of it. So when I'm saying that, that's why we're misclassified, that's why. The other thing you need to understand is that at a level 1 and 2, those levels are at risk from AI, and the rest of it is the future. However, as I said, getting the kids into the profession means that we have to have stepping stones for them to do it. And so for me, levels 1 and 2 now become a training ground, and it's a way for people, because I don't think it's going to be for a little while that AI takes those roles. And certainly while we've got some of those executives that are still back in the 1950s in their head, we're always going to have people doing pure administration if we need to, but the options are far better. And finally, I just wanted to show you, not that I'm expecting you to be able to read this in depth now, but purely from a point of view of showing you how simple the Global Skills Matrix is if you want to show it to your executives or send it to your HR departments. It's 1 page of skills and it's 1 page of tasks. What I would say to you is, last time the Global Skills Matrix was written for you. It was written for the administrative professionals. This time around, it's not written for you. It's written for your leadership and for your HR, because we're not playing around anymore. We know that this actually needs to happen, not least because with AI in the picture, with the average age being 48, and with businesses totally misunderstanding what you do, it's a possibility that the profession falls off a cliff. So we absolutely need to talk to them now about what this profession is and why they need you. And this document is not just the skills and tasks. It's 28 pages, although there is an executive summary for those of your executives that have an attention span of a gnat. But it is 28 pages that explains exactly the business case for why they need an administrative professional.
Absolutely. And yeah,
And of course, just to add to that,
absolutely.
if you go to the website to download the full report or the executive summary, go down a little bit further, because there's all kinds of resources, and we have got a special guide for administrative professionals on how to use the matrix. So you can download that as well, and it tells you really in a step-by-step actioned way how you can benefit yourself and your organization by using the skills matrix in the correct way. So don't just do the report, go down and see what else is available. There's lots of great stuff out there for you, and it's all free to download.
Yes, and Helen put the link already in the chat, so make sure you grab it. And do we have some news if it's going to be translated into German again?
We're
Crossing
working on
fingers.
it. We've had loads of offers from countries who want to translate it into their own local language. So we'll be putting out a special sort of template that so that we can facilitate that to make it happen. We had 6 languages last time, so I'm
Yes.
aiming for at least the same, if not more this time. And
Okay.
just some stats that I ran this morning. When we launched in 2021, um, we got we launched in September. So from September to the end of the year in 2021, there were a total of 2,000 downloads. In the
Strong.
first week since we've launched, we've already had almost 3,500 downloads.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
there is so much interest out there, so much attention. People are really hungry for this and have been waiting for it, and we couldn't be more happy
And I
because it's
know, and on
growing.
the launch date, the website broke because there were so many people
It did, yes. No,
online.
sorry. We're
That's good news, and you fixed it so fast, so don't worry at all.
we
No
did.
need to say sorry. It was just a huge
No,
amount of
it was
interest.
all hands to the pump with Lucy's team to get it all back up again. Yeah, so
It
sorry about that
was.
if you tried and it didn't work the first time. Don't give up. It's all working properly now.
It
So
is indeed.
go
So
ahead and
Helen,
download.
Thing is,
yeah,
sorry,
sorry,
Diana.
Lucy.
The other thing
No,
I would say is that there was an absolutely phenomenal panel on the day
yes,
from one of the top 10 HR professionals in the world, 3 companies represented, really huge global
yes,
companies who have implemented the framework. And of course, Lucy Chamberlain from CNC Search,
yes.
amazing recruiter, and they were all phenomenal. So we will make sure that that link gets sent out as well, because it's a great way to understand the actual implications for your business.
It's on
Definitely. We
the
we will
link
make
is on the
sure to share
website.
this.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
we will definitely make sure to see this because it's available on YouTube. So just last 2 questions for you guys in terms of the agenda we have. So Helen, the profession is 98% female, right? So to what extent is the under-evaluation of administrative professionals a gender issue in disguise?
Yeah. It's a good question. This because originally secretaries were men, right?
Yeah, true
Back
point.
in the almost going back to Greek times when you were the keeper of secrets. That's where the name comes from, and they were men, and women didn't come into the profession until yeah, probably just after the Second World War, when there were no men to do the work anymore. So the women
Mm-hmm.
stepped up to do it, and they've never left, basically. So yes, we are 98% female. We love it when we see that there are male assistants coming up, or in the profession. There are some, and they have their place just like everybody, but to a large extent, we think it's important to be honest about this. So when you have a profession that is overwhelmingly female and at the same time structurally undervalued, underpaid, and undertitled, you have to ask yourself, are these 2 facts connected? Well,
Mm-hmm.
we think they are. So the Lean In research that Lucy mentioned before, and the Microsoft research on the AI gender gap shows that women, as she said, are leading the AI adoption at work, but they're not getting the credit or the progression opportunities that follow from that success of using AI, adopting AI early. So we all know administrative professionals are really at the sharp end of that dynamic. And there's something else worth saying here is the work that is consistently undervalued, things like coordination, relational intelligence, holding the organization together across competing priorities, has always been described as soft
Mm-hmm.
skills. So we need to decide, we need to be honest about why we decided they were called soft and who decided that. I don't think it was the women.
Yeah, I agree. Well said. Lucy, the last question goes over to you in terms of legacy. So, what is your wish for the profession in 10 years?
Oh my goodness. I think I really want it to be a profession that young people choose. Um, it's it's so important that we get them into the profession. And we are going to be launching a campaign which is going to give every single one of you the tools, a pack to go into your local school or college so that you can take a booth there, so you can talk about this as an amazing career. Because the assistants that are coming into this profession have the closest proximity to leadership of almost any role. And you can start here and go anywhere, as my dear friend Julie Perrine in the States would say. You know, if you have administrative skills, you can move from country to country. If you have administrative skills, you can move from working for a truck company to working in TV. You know, you can really start here and go anywhere. Or you can choose to move to an entirely different career altogether. And I know that we almost talk about people who don't want to be a career assistant as a dirty word. But, you know, for many of the young people, they want to be able to see how they can be influential. We know they all want to be influencers, so they don't want to be assistants. We've got to take a look at exactly how we look at that. And actually, if we want them to choose, we need to make sure we have a visible career architecture and really clearly defined progression pathways and genuine respect. It looks like a profession that sits within operations rather than being scattered across departments. And it looks like a profession where the level 5 roles, so the administrative leadership and the executive operations leadership pathways, are recognised for what they are, which is senior operational leadership positions that belong in a grading structure alongside all the other functions of equivalent impact. So honestly, it looks like a profession that doesn't need people like us making the case for it anymore. I'd be very happy to go and retire at this point. It's been so much work.
No, don't say that. We had Rhonda over earlier who said she's retiring, so don't say that now.
Yes, and Bodylow Crayman and Wiki Sock 11s, it's their last ever BTUA this year. You know, they're
I
coming to
know.
Berlin, they're coming to
To
Brussels any minute.
Brussels,
If you
yes.
haven't seen them, go, because once it's gone, it's gone. And I honestly think it's one of the best courses out there. But I think, you
True.
know, the case has been made, the data's been done, the organisations should be catching up with what 500 million people have known all along. And, you know, in 10 years, we will see what that structural change looks like in reality. We think it's possible, but we think the fact that 3,221 people took part in this research suggests that they think so too.
Absolutely. There's nothing more to add. I can only say thank you so much for taking the time, for tuning in from San Francisco and from the Netherlands. Big round of
Thank you,
applause.
Diana.
And we
Thank
have
you,
the
Diana.
LinkedIn handles of Lucy and Helen in the chat. Make sure you connect with
Oh, thank
them.
you. Yes, please
Go
do.
to the website, download the Global Skills Matrix. And Helen, sorry, you wanted to say something.
No, I was just saying thank you for sharing the LinkedIn
Of
details.
course.
Thank
Of
you.
course. So thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you,
We're going to
Diana.
bring this out to an even broader audience who's not only part of the conference here today. I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel, so we're going to spread it out. Thank you so much, ladies. Can't wait to see you, Lucy, in Lisbon, and Helen latest in Berlin
Yes,
later this year. All
fabulous.
the best to you, and
Thank you so
have a
much.
lovely evening.
Great to
Thank
see you.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Diana.
you so
Thank you.
much. And we're